Another big weather pattern change will be coming to the United States over the next several days, and this is going to flip the temperatures yet again, where we're going to go from pretty cold temperatures for this time of the year all the way back to warm and above average temperatures for most of the United States. In addition to that, we are going to see a return of severe weather this weekend, with maybe a couple of tornadoes being possible, and we also have an update on the tropics with two different areas of development across the Atlantic Basin. So let's begin with what's happening across the United States this morning. And overall, it's pretty quiet for most of the country. We do have some activity ongoing back over in the Rocky Mountains, and we're actually going to see some heavy snowfall in the higher elevations as we go into tonight and eventually throughout the rest of this week into the weekend. So that'll be something to watch for up in the United States, and we'll talk more about that here in a moment. But what I also want to point out is that we do have two different areas of development in the Atlantic Ocean, both of which are now down to low chances of development over the next 7 days, and neither of them look like they're going to be impacting the United States anytime soon. The only one that would have any chance of doing so is the one east of the Lesser Antilles, but it has struggled to get its act together. But we'll update you with the latest on that here in just a moment, and why there still is a chance that this could become a tropical storm over the next few days. Now, I'm going to take a wild guess and say the majority of you watching this forecast right now have a jacket on because you are cold, and the reason why is because we are dealing with well below normal temperatures for a large chunk of the eastern tier of the United States. What's crazy is that many areas are below freezing, even as far south as northern Georgia this morning. So again, not common at all for this time of the year. We usually see this in months like January and February, at least for below freezing temperatures as far south as Georgia. That's not common for this time of the year. Even Florida is dabbling into the low to mid 40s, and wind chills are even in the upper 30s, which takes us to the jacket meter for today. And right now we are between a light jacket and a winter jacket, depending on where you are in the United States. If you're in Florida and it's in the 40s, you might be wearing a winter jacket. If you're up in New Hampshire and you're in the 30s, you're probably wearing a t-shirt and shorts. That's probably what's going on up there. Right now, there are freeze warnings in effect for a large chunk of the Ohio Valley, even some into the parts of the Appalachian Mountains, which are areas that have been devastated by Hurricane Helene. And a lot of those areas are currently still dealing with the impacts from Helene. Many people still without a home or a shelter. Many people in a tent, actually, right now in areas like Western North Carolina in the freezing temperatures. So really unfortunate stuff there. And then back up into the Northeast, we also have freeze warnings there. Also, notice we have red flag warnings in effect across the central and northern plains. That does mean that we do have the potential for wildfires today. Now let's talk more about the general weather pattern over the next few days and kind of give you an idea of where our weather is heading, because we've been dealing with this cold weather pattern here for the last 48 hours, but we're not going to be in this weather pattern for very long. Reason why is because the trough that is bringing all this colder air is already moving out of the United States, which means right behind it we have a large ridge, and this ridge is going to build up heat once again and limit rainfall for much of the Great Plains and anywhere on the eastern tier of the United States. So as we go into the weekend, what we have to watch for is going to be the ridge. One, that's going to bring warmer weather, but here's the other thing we're going to be watching for. We're actually going to be watching for a bowling ball low pressure system, and what that essentially means is that this is a closed low pressure system, which in most cases are very slow moving storms. And so what we're going to be dealing with this weekend is a very slow moving low pressure system that's actually going to bring the potential for a few rounds of severe weather beginning Friday and running all the way through Sunday and perhaps even into Monday across the southern and central plains and even into the high plains. So you'll notice how slow this trough is going to move, and that means that any sort of big cool downs are not really expected here in the near future. But as we go later into next week, we should at least get one more shot of cold air back over in the northern plains in the Midwest, so that'll be a little bit nicer if you're looking forward to some more fall-like weather, but it's not going to dive as far south as what we just had with this trough that has brought cold weather as far south as Florida into the 40s and 50s. As we go into next weekend, that's when things become a bit more uncertain, but as of right now, there are no major trough ejections expected that are going to bring severe weather outbreaks, and as of now, no Arctic blasts are in the forecast. Over the next few days, we are going to be dealing with, again, that trough moving over the Rocky Mountains. That'll actually dump several inches, if not even maybe a foot or two of snow into the higher elevations of the Rocky Mountains through the weekend, and then as we go into early next week, week, we'll be watching again for a few severe storms. That begins Friday and will run all the way through about Sunday or Monday. Anywhere in the central and southern plains, we'll be talking a little bit more about that here in just a moment. As we go into the middle of next week, things become drier. We might even see a few snow flurries back over in the upper Midwest as we go into the middle of next week. And then as we go into next weekend, that's when things become relatively uncertain. But as of now, no, again, major snow events or winter storms right now in the forecast there. This is what we're looking at, though, back over in the Rockies over the next several days. We're going to see several inches of snow back over in areas like Colorado, Wyoming, Idaho, Utah. Many areas going to be picking up their fresh coat of snow to begin the season, with upwards of 12 to 18 inches of snow being possible in the higher elevations. So definitely be prepared for that. If you're a skier, you are probably looking forward to that. Now, here's what we're looking at in terms of the severe weather potential for the next few days. Friday is going to be a low risk. We're really looking at maybe southeast Colorado back through eastern New Mexico for some hail and wind, maybe an isolated tornado. Saturday looks pretty similar, mostly going to be New Mexico and West Texas on Saturday. As we go into Sunday, that is when this trough will finally start to move more to the east, which will bring another risk for severe weather, again in parts of Texas, western Oklahoma, and then back through western Kansas. It does not appear to be anything like a severe weather outbreak right now, but we might end up seeing an isolated tornado or two. The main concern for that tornado threat will be on Sunday and also on Monday. As this trough moves to the east, we also have another shot of maybe an isolated tornado threat from Kansas all the way back through Oklahoma on Monday, and then by Tuesday, we are done talking about any risk for severe weather. Now, unfortunately, the temperatures that are really cold in the southeast United States, they're not going to last very long. This is going to drain out really quickly. Warm weather will return to the northern tier of the country as we go into the weekend, and then by next week, this warm air mass is just going to grow in size across a large, vast majority of the United States, all the way from the southwest United States, all the way back through the northeast. Some colder than normal weather will be possible back over in the northern plains as another trough will clip by in Canada, but again, it will not be enough to really cause an Arctic blast. Maybe the northeast getting some much colder weather by late next week, but it's too early to tell. And then warmer weather will return by next weekend, more than likely. Again, there could be some changes as it's still about 10 days out from now, but if that happens, we actually could see the potential for some record-breaking high temperatures. Let's talk a little bit more about the tropics. We do have two areas of development in the Atlantic Ocean, one in the Caribbean and then one back over in the Lesser Antilles, both of which have now low chances of development over the next 7 days, which is good news. I don't really think we're going to see much development out of either system at this point. There's still a low chance that maybe a brief tropical storm develops as this system moves towards the Lesser Antilles and Greater Antilles, but at this point, neither of these seem to be major concerns, at least for the United States. There could be some flooding, rainfall, and thunderstorm activity there in the Greater Antilles over the next few days. This is Invest 94L, which is what we're looking at here in the central and western Atlantic Ocean. Again, there's been a lot of convection near the center of this. It's been spinning pretty nicely. Again, it's been organizing a little bit more here over the last 24 hours, but it's just been struggling. It's not in a great environment, a lot of dry air. It's really small in size as well, so I do think this is going to continue to struggle over the next few days. This is some of the latest data in terms of where this system is going to go. Several models continue to push this to the northwest over the next few days, eventually dropping through Cuba or maybe back over near Haiti or the Dominican Republic. Again, development is pretty unlikely at this time, but if it does happen, we'll be more than likely just talking about some sort of tropical storm. Several models still bringing this to a tropical storm here 2 to 3 days from now, so still something to watch for. The SHIP model, which has been pretty accurate thus far this year, still brings us to a Category 1 hurricane. It's been fluctuating a lot, though, not really consistent. I would still consider that an outlier, at least for right now. As always, thank you so much for watching today's video. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. And as a friendly reminder, our signed hats for 500,000 subscribers are about to be out of stock. This is the last chance to get one if you want one. We have 3 normal signed hats left, and then we only have 1 of the signed hats with a personal handwritten card from me. If you want one of these, again, top link in the description below at shopmaxvelocity.net. And then our limited time merch, like our t-shirt, hat, beanie, mug, and also our sticker that are all unsigned, are still available until Halloween. So you have some time for these, but obviously if you want the signed hat, this is again your last chance to do so.